Good evening. Welcome to the school board meeting of February 24th, 2016. We hope that everybody had a good week last week, and we're a little off cycle with this February 24th meeting, but that's the date. So let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have the agenda before us. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Ann?
Second.
John? Any discussion? Any items requiring change? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any not in favor? Okay. And we have our minutes of the February 3rd, 2016 meeting. Oh, I just lost my screen. Wait a minute. It moved. All right, the meeting minutes for February 3rd, 2016. Are there any corrections or changes to those minutes that anyone noted? All right, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Mark, second.
Second.
Tara? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, good. We're now at privilege of the floor. I have no one signed up at the moment, so we will turn it over to Larry.
Okay, great, thank you. I hope everyone had a fantastic winter break. It seems like we're starting to get a little bit of winter now. I think today was the first morning that I had to be up really, really early to monitor the weather and see whether or not we were going to have a delay. And I know my own children were very disappointed that I decided it was just fine to have school start on time. A couple of things to note. I know that folks have seen, but I want to remind folks that there's a petition drive right now. We've got some of the leaders, our clergy leaders from around the community have taken a lead in our advocacy for adequate funding campaign, and they are having a petition drive right now. So we've got petitions for folks to sign at the schools as well as at the downtown library. Anybody who supports fair funding for the Schenectady City School District can sign this petition. This is different than when we asked people to sign on to the federal complaint. For that complaint, you had to have some standing with which to sign onto it. This petition, you only have to be supportive of equitable funding for the Schenectady City School District, and just reminding folks this is about Schenectady being shorted in the neighborhood of $60 million every year from what the foundation aid formula says we should be getting, and that school districts that are predominantly minority in their student makeup are 10 times as likely to be getting less than 70% of their aid than school districts that are serving predominantly white student bodies. And so they're pushing this petition to try to get the legislature to recognize that and rectify that in their budget process. So I encourage you to sign on. Today we had a TV crew from PBS in our high school. They do a monthly series on different education pieces. A month or two ago, I was on the panel with the Commissioner of Education and the Chancellor for SUNY. And so I won't be on the panel on this next installment, but they did want to talk to us, get some footage of our school, talk to some of our kids, and so they interviewed me and 3 of our students about the achievement gap. And so we're looking forward to that. I always find that our students in that situation represent us so well. I think that they are always so well prepared, they're well spoken, they're very intelligent kids. You never know how TV crews will edit those things, but I just was so impressed with the kids and how they handle themselves with those adults, and in a situation that it's taking me quite a while as a professional to get comfortable with those TV cameras and those kinds of things. I can't imagine at 14 how I would have reacted, and our kids certainly react really well to that, and did well with that. So I'm looking forward to that being aired.
When will it, do we have any idea of when it'll be aired?
The date for that is not evident to me.
Okay. March 8th?
The week of, yeah, so it will, so second week of March maybe, and it varies across the state. So each PBS station kind of does their own programming, so you'll see it at multiple occasions there, and I think you might even be able to stream it on the internet when you find that. But we've got the county library's one county, one book program getting started. And the book is Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. And we've got quite a few events tied together with this. Jacqueline Woodson, the author, will be at Mount Pleasant on April 4th. I think this Saturday, I think we've got an event at the library on
The new library.
kicking off the opening of the library. We've got Brian Collier, who's an illustrator, who'll be coming to Martin Luther King School
Friday.
this Friday. So we've got a number of things coming together with that. If you're able to get to one of those events, that's outstanding, especially the lunch with Brian Collier, or getting down to the library opening on Saturday.
And it's a good
I think
book
would be
too.
outstanding.
I read it in January. I'm actually ahead of the structure here on having read that book this time.
So, and I know we've had folks, lots of folks who've been the celebrity readers and things like that leading up to this. So I think we've had a really, really wonderful year with the one county, one book. It's been really nice.
The book actually mentions Schenectady in it. There's a teaser.
So read the book and find out. I want to congratulate some folks. We've had a couple of students do well in the Poetry Out Loud competition.
Oh.
Rania Shoti and Alicia Williams both participated, with Alicia placing second, and will be representing us at the state finals later on in March. Congratulations to the basketball team. They're not sectional champions, but they made it to the quarterfinals. We know they had a pretty good season, some ups and downs, but always getting to that next round in sectionals is good. And Antonio Zamora, I don't know how many folks are aware of this. Antonio is a wrestler for us and is a Section 2 champion, our first champion in wrestling since 1993.
Excellent.
So congratulations to him. And then a couple of little events coming up. I know that everybody knows very much about Girls' Day Out. We've got a Boys' Day Out event tomorrow night at Mount Pleasant. Similar concept, and the last events that we've had with that have been very well attended and very well received. Tonight we just had the opening of Portrait Power, and if you have an opportunity to pop in and see see that artwork, I was in there just before the meeting, and we've got student artwork on display. We've got some professional artists' work on display, and we've got some of our own staff with their work on display. I think that's a great mix, especially when we have our own staff putting their work out there for the public and for kids to see that they are active artists as well. I always think that's a great piece. And then we've got a teacher recruitment fair March 22nd in the evening at Page School. And so we know we always would like local folks to apply, and so this is an opportunity for us to kind of make sure folks know and are aware how to get their name in the mix and get themselves on our list to be considered
What time
as
is
a
that
teacher.
on March 22nd?
4:30 to 7 at Page Elementary.
And that's on the website?
I think that's on the website. I think it's been advertised in a few different places, and we'll continue to advertise it right up until the date.
Good. Excellent. Okay.
All right.
Board members. Durham?
No.
Nothing? Tanya?
Last week, the Hamilton Hill Arts Center had their fundraiser and silent auction. And I just wanted to thank the school district for their support, in particular, of course, our superintendent Spring And also Mr. Ehrenstein, one of our music teachers here, is very active in the Art Center. And then also, last but not least, Mr. Scott Heller, which I understand is a kindergarten teacher in our district. He makes these wonderful cigar box guitars,
Yes.
which I guess there's a club here, one of the schools that he does. He actually donated one of these cigar box guitars to the Hamilton Hill Art Center's silent auction. And I must say, this was really quite a conversation piece. It's very unusual, and we had quite a number of bidders on there. But aside from that, he's also volunteered to work with a select number of students at the Art Center. He's going to help them build these cigar box guitars, and he's also going to teach them how to play it. So I thought that that was, truly an exciting opportunity for those kids there at the Art Center to learn something new, particularly this particular guitar, which is so unique. And it just made me think that there's a lot of teachers that are doing good works, not only in the classroom with our students, but also there's a lot of them that are doing things outside of the classroom and in the community that people are not aware of, and they should be recognized for their efforts. And that's all for me.
Okay. Cheryl?
Not tonight.
Mark?
No, not for me, thank you.
Ann?
No.
Joe? Oh, okay. That comes to me. I had a couple of things there. I don't know exactly what this is. I did read about it, and it slipped my mind. Midnight Madness for cheerleaders is this Saturday, February 27th, here at the high school. I don't know when it takes place, but I think it's a cheerleading competition. So I just call it to people's attention to check that out up to midnight or something. I was hoping it wasn't starting at midnight, but I didn't really know. It's on the sign out on the corner, so I think it might be attractive to some people. I would also like to mention I did do some of the reading. I went to Hamilton School on Monday and met with two kindergarten classes and read to them the book by Jacqueline Woodson, a different book than Brown Girl Dreaming that she's coming to discuss in April. I read Pecan Pie Baby to the kindergartners, and it was a different illustrator than the one who's coming on Friday. But I have to say they seemed pretty interested in Pecan Pie Baby, and I think it's good for kindergartners in that many of them would be experiencing the fact of having their mother perhaps having another child, and that was what it was about. I would also like to mention that several members of the board are attending a New York State School Board Association Capitol Conference this Sunday and Monday morning to learn more about what is happening legislatively in New York State. And several of us will be meeting with Senator Farley on Monday morning after the breakfast. People generally go up the hill, as they say, to visit with their respective legislators. And so we have an appointment with Senator Farley for this coming Monday. Also would like to mention that petition forms for anyone interested in running for school board positions, members of the Board of Education, are available in the district clerk's office at 108 in Mount Pleasant School. And I think that's what I had on things. So, okay. I look forward to that One County, One Book. As I said, for me to have actually read it ahead of time is a real accomplishment. That hasn't happened for all the years that they've had this. I think they're on to about year 10, and I've read some of the books, but they've usually been after the fact, so the fact that I've read it ahead of time is great. All right, moving on to our policy update. We have 5 policies that were in the first reading. Policy 1611 is the business of the annual district election, and we're actually removing that one because the prior policy, an earlier policy, the 1610, I presume, Martha,
Right.
It closely relates to that one, so it felt that 1611 was not needed. With regard to policies 3230 on public complaints, 3240 information disseminated through students, 3250 parent-teacher organization, and policy 3271 solicitation of charitable donations from school children. Does anyone have any comments or observations at this point on that? Okay, hearing none, and if you do have anything, you can get them back to Martha and the policy committee. But if not, we'll have that for approval at our next meeting, which is next week, March 2nd. So we only have 1 week in between. And that moves us on to the capital project update, and we have our friends over here. You must have had a busy week last week. We have Larry Toon and Sean Hamlin here, and please go ahead and tell us how busy it was last week.
It's quite busy. Quite busy. So what you have there is Phase 1 capital project update, and then a construction progress report. And the second PowerPoint presentation this evening will be a Phase 1B referendum vote.
Okay.
So we'll jump right into the construction capital project Phase 1 update. So I'll just take you through quickly. Group A projects, Keene, Page, Skyla, are physically complete and either closed out or in closeout. Group B projects are Mount Pleasant, we'll touch on, in Oneida. Pleasant Valley Elementary is physically complete. Just a little bit of closeout documentation to follow up on. And Group C projects are the ones that are in SCD that Sean will touch on quickly. And then you have the Group D projects. We're considering hometown health at the middle school and high school, as well as what you'll see in another presentation for a potential masonry project at Central Park. Right? And then we'll talk about some next steps.
Okay.
So just quickly to give you a floor plan, so you make sure you recall, Phase 1C is the green, which we completed on December 23rd and is reoccupied by the district. Phase 2, the blue, is scheduled to, it's under full demolition currently, and it's scheduled to be substantially complete August 2016. And Phase 1B down in the right corner is also scheduled to be complete August 1st, 2016. So this is the attic of Mount Pleasant, Phase 1A, where you're getting a plywood walking surface and acoustical floor system, because that will become an equipment and mechanical room with air handling units over the new library. So that's just a little bit of that progress.
How do you get those new units in there? It's not like Oneida was, where we had to have the big crane brought in, or?
Actually, yesterday we had a huge crane lift new units on top of the old boys' gym, new air handling
in Mount
units
Pleasant?
and cooling towers that will serve the 1B and 1C section. The units that are going to go in the attic are going to come in pieces and be lifted up and into the side of the building and then assembled inside. That's why we're building the floor first.
Okay.
And then I'll just show you a little bit of progress in 1B. The photo on the left are the bathrooms, rough-ins. So that's, there's girls and boys, multiple bathroom on the first, second, and third floor of 1B. 6th grade bathrooms. And then you'll see in 1B the support steel is the darker color steel. That's for the to support the rooftop units, the air handlers, actually skylights and exhaust fans. Phase 2, just a little bit of what's going on there. There's the old first floor, the old guidance area. Second floor, there's the former library. And third floor corridor on the south side is where those walls will be opened up after we get the structure built to be the new library and media center on the third floor. So that's pretty much the update for Mount Pleasant. Last week was extremely busy. That week, unoccupied enabled us to do a lot of intrusive work. Poured a lot of concrete slab infill so that we can continue building up and out. Tremendous amount of work.
Anybody have any questions for
Any questions
Larry
on regarding
this?
Mount Pleasant? No?
It was helpful. It was helpful to do the tour last
Oh,
time.
yeah.
At our meeting, or in advance of our meeting,
Yeah, a
February
couple weeks
3rd.
ago,
So,
right?
yeah, February 3rd.
Yeah.
So that we have a better sense of the areas there.
Pictures
Perfect.
don't do it justice.
No.
No, they don't.
But I'm glad you walked through.
Yeah, that
Perfect.
was good.
So whenever you're ready for Oneida, just let me know.
Oh, okay.
Next meeting we hold there.
That's fine.
It'll be a warm day.
So just a little bit about Oneida, take you through quickly. The red box there is the shoring, the gym. It's all been opened up and new foundations. There's a new center stairwell going right up in the middle. Some very intrusive work that's happening over the next 2 weeks. Once we can get that built and get the shoring down, it'll just open up a lot of things. And there's a lot of shoring going on throughout the entire building to put in a lot of structural steel support and columns. So within the next couple of weeks, there'll be a lot of that in place and coming down, and we could really start to see things coming together.
And just kind of remind folks a little bit about, we're talking here about a lot of flooring and things like that that's been disrupted, in part because we had a lot of water issues under there, and so this is not just replacing that flooring that was damaged, but also addressing those underlying issues so that we then won't have that issue again in 15 years.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of foundation drainage, inner foundation drainage being piped out to the outside to the new storm drainage. Even the roof leaders are tied in to make sure water is going out and not into your gym area. So it's been dug
I
down.
didn't realize we had water problems at.
Yeah,
Oneida.
So
Big moisture problem.
So if you
over
remember,
there.
one, and I don't remember
It must
when,
be the same creek that comes
when
under
folks-
my house.
when folks toured there, but actually when coming down those stairs, I think there was a place there where we needed folk to really watch their step because the floor had buckled so badly.
Yeah.
And there was some bad, some pretty bad damage there.
So that was, in the gym, all the way around the perimeter of the gym, underneath the stairs adjacent to the elevator, as well as the courtyards. There was a lot of work done to make sure we keep water from infiltrating the building. Tremendous amount of work. But most of that's done, and we can start putting things back together. Just a quick little progress on where the new computer room is being built. Over the media center in the gym, in the old gym area, on the left between the cafeteria and the gym to the far north. Up above is the new structure and floor, and then you see where they're forming the walls and doors for the computer classroom. That'll be off the first floor corridor, right over the media center. So, with that, the basement and ground floor, there's a lot of shoring, structural demo, MEP roughing, and equipment and electrical rooms being built. The first and second floor were actually, there's a lot of framing, insulating, and drywall actually going in place, where soffits, and the second floor is actually ceilings that are going in. So we'll be finishing from the second to the first ground and basement. Even to the point where in the next couple of weeks you'll see light fixtures and painting on the second floor in some areas.
That building will have 3 floors when it's complete.
Second, first, and then the ground level,
Ground
street
floor.
level, and then from the gym back to the Ellis Street side
Kind of
Right.
basement.
is like considered the basement.
Okay.
Now, in your estimation, I get this question a lot about Oneida. It appears to me we're doing well with the schedule. Would you say we're a little bit ahead of schedule, right on schedule, or a little bit behind?
We're fighting the schedule every day, but we're right there. We're about 40% done.
Still hitting every mile. All
We're
our
hitting all the
milestones.
milestones. We are looking at, they've been working Saturdays. We're looking at doing some more Saturdays in the next couple weeks to concentrate on some areas that will just open up some major work, like that center stairwell has been very difficult to continue some mechanicals. So we monitor the schedule very closely. So we're right teetering between. We should probably be at 42 and we're about 40, right? So we're fighting every day to keep trying to gain traction. But we started it behind schedule, so we're fighting to get
It doesn't
ahead.
matter to me when we started. It's
Okay, I understand.
All about when we end.
Exactly. So substantial completion is August 5th or 8th, August 8th.
Of
But yeah.
2016.
2016.
You want to be very specific about the year.
August, what's the first Friday in August of 2016? Sorry.
That's okay. whatever.
Okay.
I just wanted to point out the year.
Yes. No, we're
We're on track.
we're on track.
I have to say that what is going on at Oneida is gets a great deal of community attention. I mean, people can see the lights on at night and see and they said, well, they can't wait to see what's happening inside. And,
Yeah.
and I've had several comments along that line, so.
Yeah, that's going well. 60 to 80 tradesmen a day. I'm still putting in $1.5 million work in place every month.
Wow.
And that's gonna pick up a little bit at this point because we will still start working Saturdays and maybe 2 shifts because of August 6th, 2016, right? That's the only date you care about.
The Group C projects, Central Park, the drawings and specifications, as you're aware, have been submitted to SCD. They've been in SCD for some time now, and we have received back architectural comments that we have responded to. What we are currently awaiting to hear back from SCD are the engineering comments. But there's been some good news relative to the reviews at SCD. SCD has established a new program of hiring consultants to do their reviews to help with the backlog of projects. Our project at Central Park was one of the projects that were selected. We are thrilled by that, to go out of the SCD house on State Street, and we'll go to a third-party consultant for a review. So we're anticipating that we should receive our engineering comments in the very near future. In anticipation of those comments coming in, last week on Friday, we actually put the project out to bid on the 19th. And that was a big coordination hurdle that we coordinated with Turner as well as the district to get that project out on the street. Tomorrow afternoon will be our walkthrough, our first walkthrough on the project with contractors at 4 o'clock that will come to the building, and Turner will chair that meeting and kind of walk them through so they began to now visualize the building and what their work will entail. So we have hit some huge hurdles in our development of Central Park. Any questions? One other item on Central Park, I failed to inform Mr. Toon. Also this week, we had a good seminal meeting with the principal, as well as Mr. Insonia, about phasing and working through that and parts of the building, and as we'll be turning them over as we work in that building as well.
Is that work, the inside work in the building, is that scheduled to happen this school year or starting in next year or
Starting this summer and
Starting-
being done by the end of the year.
end of the calendar year?
Yes.
Okay. So that's like a July to December kind of?
It is,
schedule?
pending the approval happens and we're able to award by May 2nd. That's how the schedule is run.
But the building will be opening up in September. There'll be some small spaces that we discussed with the principal that we'll be coordinating with her through the remaining months after September.
So the project out to bid, this is the inside work in the building then? Okay,
Correct.
I was thinking of the outside work that we,
No, this is just the inside
That's it.
from the original referendum.
Separate.
That's in the
I
next,
know.
next presentation. will be-
yep, I realize that. Okay.
Yeah.
Van Corlear, drawings and specifications have also been submitted to SCD, and we're now, once again, in the waiting mode to hear back on architectural and engineering comments and questions. Howe Elementary, as we know, has also been submitted, and we had a very productive meeting last week with SCD. We were able to qualify for what is called a face-to-face meeting with SCD. Because of the nature of Howe and being a project of full renovation, that project qualified for their face-to-face session, which was developed to also help expedite projects through the review process. So after almost 6 hours locked in a room with my mechanical engineer and my project manager and 2 SCD reviewers, we went through page through page through page of drawings, listing their comments, going back and forth. The good news is we've gone through it, and we will be responding to those comments in the next several weeks. There were some tweaks and some adjustments and some clarifications that they required from us, and we will be providing them that data. And we hope to have a permit forthcoming after our response. So that was also a very productive week last week with the Howe Elementary School. While at SCD, as we move into our Group D projects, I was able to have the presence or be able to meet with Mr. Thurnau himself during my face-to-face meeting after that meeting. And we were able to talk a little bit about hometown health. And we went through some issues, and he promised to follow up, and he was true to his word. And as of last Friday, he called me back and said, "Sean, we will be publishing your permit." And so as of Monday morning, we have a permit to proceed with the Mount Pleasant Middle School project under the Hometown Health. And this,
Rah. That's been a long time coming.
a long time coming, a long time coming.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
So now we're working with Hometown Health to see if it's more feasible to start in the summer of 2016 versus starting now, and if that would be a little easier on the budget versus working the night shift at both schools.
Okay, so both of those
Yeah,
may
so we're
be
kind
done
of
in the summer.
repricing some of the both of the projects as a summer project versus starting now second shift, all second shift work. So we're just exploring some options
Sure.
for Hometown Health and whatever they want to do.
Okay.
So the last several presentations, you saw a little bit about exterior masonry repair at Central Park. So there's a separate presentation to follow. And then some next steps and milestones. So Anticipate SED review comments for Central Park, Howe, and Van this spring. Some bidding for Howe and Van Corlear, and by May is what we anticipate, with a potential bond referendum vote for Phase 1B, Central Park exterior masonry. August 2016, Mount Pleasant Phase 1B and 2 turnover. That should say also Oneida. But September 2016, reopen Oneida Middle School, open Mount Pleasant Central Park with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And in the summer of 17, you'll see the new bus loop being constructed in front of Mount Pleasant.
Okay, we look forward to these. Anyone have any questions for Larry and Sean at this point?
I don't have
Sorry.
Okay. I suspect that the weather has been helpful to you.
It has, very much so.
Yeah, I would think it might be, because it's at least been a tad warmer and not quite so inclement. We don't want to jinx it, but
Yeah. Well, right now it's changing up a little bit, but so far it's been very good. Very, no snow to clean up off the roof and the ground every day. It's been helping the production stay up. So, it's been a blessing.
Great. Okay, are we on to?
This is what we're referring to as the Phase 1B referendum vote. We will get it started, please. This is kind of the outline of what we're going to be discussing this evening. We're going to talk about three main categories, or what will work out to be just basically two, which is the project scope, financial plan, and the legal position on seeker. Starting with the top, the design team and administration went back and we took an overall look across the district as we were finalizing and defining the scope of the project. As you know, as you may be aware of, we performed a building condition survey as required by SCD. So that allowed us to have at our fingertips a vast 30,000 view look at your district and your facilities. But in discussion, we've really focused on our immediate needs in the district, which is at Central Park, which is made up of two components: the exterior masonry, alteration work, and we'll get into the details, and also the gym roof. And also in developing this plan and scope, we were then able to develop a financial plan. The conversations the district has had with your consultant fiscal advisors to understand the tax impact to the citizens of the city. And then quite simply, the other track we were investigating was the legal position on seeker, whether or not another seeker statement would have to be filed and made. And as the architectural team, as your architects, and as well as your bond counsel, no new seeker process is required. We're able to perform this referendum work under the current seeker that was passed for Phase 1B. So, 1B, the exterior masonry alterations. This scope of work is $1.5 million, and you can see some photos that shows the continuing failure of the terracotta cornice as well as other masonry features of the building. If you were to drive by the building today, you will see where we have at least provided temporary protection in these areas. And in some areas, we've removed the terracotta completely where there has been cracking and where there are anticipated to be failures. And those images show kind of the work that we are projecting and have done already to date.
The upper right corner there, are those the locations on the buildings? We can see better with our hard copy here of where the terracotta has either come out or failed or
Yes.
or whatever.
And those are the areas that we designated to be for protection to go in place. Now, actually, when the contractor went out there, we actually added more locations than what you actually see here, because this drawing was developed from the ground as well as from the roof looking down. But once we were able to get a bucket to the building, we were able to have a more detailed inspection and more areas receive the netting that you see along Central Park. Oops, skipped a slide. Thank you. The other scope of work that has come to our attention after our BCS review and in conversations with the administration is the gym roof alterations, and that has a price tag of $325,000 for that work. But there needs to be some more investigation in order to really define that scope of work. Well, what's going on the gym roof? And you can see that highlighted in the red on the right-hand side. The picture there illustrates your roof is ponding water, and the roof is not designed to pond water. And so that has created and will create further issues, and that has to be addressed.
Is it inadequate draining that has drainage that's caused that ponding, or?
Well, the location of the drain, the roof is not properly sloped to the drains.
Okay.
You have the required number of drains with the exception of a secondary relief valve drain, but you don't have the proper pitch to those drains.
It looks relatively flat. I guess I would agree with your statement.
Yeah, but even though in a typical relatively flat roof,
Uh-huh.
there are slight pitches
Yeah,
that are
sure.
required in every roof in order to evacuate the water from the roof. And in this roof, unfortunately, when it was re-roofed in 2008, that really wasn't addressed properly. So you have been carrying water on that roof, and you will have problems. So that was an immediate need that needed to be addressed. And so we're looking at two concepts of how to address it once we really understand a little more. As you can see, there's a note that talks about that we are actually doing some testing to determine to the extent that we know that there is some leaking occurring on this roof, but we want to understand the actual extent of the leaking. So we have hired a company to come in and do infrared testing that will provide us with results of the extent of insulation that is damp or moist, so we know the extent of the roof repair work that we may have to execute. So the number that you see reflected here is the upside number for total roof replacement. When those tests come back, we may not need to replace the entire roof, and thus that number would be reduced.
The other sections of the roof are fine because they don't have, it's not a flat roof. That's
Well, the
more
other
or less
sections are fine too. Quite interesting, as you can
Pitched.
see, that block there, that's to the right,
Yes,
that was, I believe, a 1970s or thereabout addition. But the structure and how the structure is pitching towards drains is different on the lower portion of that block. And in the upper portion that's highlighted in red,
Yeah.
we have clear spanning truss because it is a gymnasium and it was not properly pitched to the roof drains.
The contractor that did this work in 2008, are they doing any roof work for us presently or no?
No, they're not.
And Sean, just a thought, but was the roof work warranted, you know?
It is, and we've been working with the district and also with the manufacturer. To be quite frank with you, we believe that they will walk away from this condition. They will use every, in our opinion, every word, sentence, or phrase in the warranty to walk away. The roof was improperly installed to begin with. That's fundamentally the problem. That's the reason why you have the pooling water here. It should have been addressed at the time of at the time it was installed.
okay. All right.
Moving forward, this is kind of the total count. Exterior masonry, 1.5 million. Gym roof alterations, 325. Soft costs, tracking at 25%. That brings us to a project total of $2.375 million for this scope of work. So what does this mean? Well, from fiscal advisors, with a project at $2.375 million, The Schenectady City School District qualifies currently for 97.4% aid from the state of New York. We believe that this project, as just a basic roofing and masonry restoration to control the envelope of your building, should qualify for no less than 98% aid. That's what we use as a conservative number. That will generate a tax levy of $5,500 per year, or 1/100%. Therefore, a property owner with a $100,000 assessed home using the 2015 and 16 rates in Schenectady, 28 cents a year, and in Rotterdam, 23 cents a year impact.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Sean on that? We have another
I just-
timetable, right?
You know, I do just want to pause there and make sure that the financing of this is really clear and folks understand it, because I think similar to the last referendum that we did, I think that the numbers can sound fantastical to folks. How is that possible, that we're going to do $2.3 million worth of work and have it only cost $5,500 a year to the district, and have that play out to be 0.01%? And so I just want to make sure that we're really clear that the scope of this work is really limited and focused. We're only doing work that's related to health and safety. So we're maximizing the aid ratio. We already have a very high aid ratio because of our need. So our 97.4% aid ratio plus this is work that is nearly fully aidable. We will have to bond, put money out on the front end, but what we would pay back on that is that $5,500 a year. That's
And this is exterior masonry work and the gym roof alteration work has come up since we did the referendum in 2014. I mean,
Yep.
it was 2 years ago that we did that referendum, so,
Yep.
you know, these are.
and Central Park was a
Central Park.
smaller project. We did not. We really don't have room within that scope, within that project to fold this
Right.
work. But
Yeah, so that's where we're at, 2,375. Or we will accept any and all donation, right?
Absolutely.
So here are some next steps and milestones. We would like to recommend to the board and to the administration, March 16th, that the board authorize the public vote as it's required to do. March 23rd, the advertisement of a referendum about 45 days in advance would have to be set as required. May 17th, the actual referendum vote. And then starting in June, right to March, design and SCD review, spring and summer of 2017 construction, and then completion by the fall of 2017.
Any questions on the timetable for Sean?
traditionally, the location of the referendum, the timing of that is a place where there's a lot of conversation. Does it make sense or does it not make sense to hold that referendum in conjunction with the budget vote? We're proposing here that we have that happen at the same time. We know that that can mean that people could conflate the issues. That it's possible that there could be confusion of what it is that they're voting on, why this capital project and the budget vote and elections and things like that. But we don't anticipate that that would be overly negative. We think that this is a very, conservative and responsible capital project. We think it's fiscally advantageous. We think that we've got the ability to advertise it and communicate it in a very clear way. It's not complex funding. This does not have lots of the Excel funding and things like that our last capital project did. Places where we needed to talk about needing a supermajority in order to break through the debt ceiling and finance more aggressively. And because of the urgency or the safety nature of this, we decided we would rather vote on it sooner, pair it up with the budget vote, as opposed to wait, separate it for clarity's sake, but delay the work essentially another year. And so this is a place where I would.
We don't incur any additional cost of having the referendum vote at a different time than the budget
Right.
vote. too,
Cost of a
so.
single election as
Yeah.
opposed to having an additional one. But if there are questions about that, I think that would be a typical place for people to have questions at the timing of this paired up with the budget vote.
So Larry, would we have any kind of public information session just on the referendum?
I would.
Separate from the
Yep.
budget, so people understand?
Yep, I would want to do that. I would, in all of our communications, we would still be talking about, these are multiple things that are happening at once, but we would want to do, probably to a lesser degree, to a smaller scale, but very similar to what we did when we went out for the referendum. Make sure that folks can see the scope, make sure that, we're presenting to any place that will have us, go through the PowerPoint, explain to them, what the work is, why the work is necessary, why the financing works the way that it does, how it is that we can guarantee that, for that capital work, this is what the tax impact will be. All of those things. Make sure that everybody's got opportunities to get those questions answered just on that.
That phase of it, that aspect of it.
Yep.
Okay, any questions for either Larry or Sean? All right, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Were you okay with the two-sided?
Yeah, I just saw the one here on the
Yes.
back.
Okay.
Yeah, a few
Shows
minutes.
the 1922 date on the top of Central Park School.
We like it. In a few minutes, we're going to look at how much we spent this year on copies, so we're good.
I did one two-sided, one, so if you're okay with two-sided.
So I think maybe we should highlight that 1922, and that might emphasize why we need to do some of this terracotta replacement.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Fast approaching 100 years on that particular one. All right. Okay, moving on, we're on to our budget presentation from Kimberly on operations and maintenance.
And I have to confess that I inadvertently printed this on one side, not double-sided like the other.
Shown up by the construction guys.
These three documents, I only have one copy, it's just to take a look at and then pass along.
Are there extra copies down at that end? We're a little short over here.
Few short.
Good evening. So tonight's presentation, gosh, I don't have to be so close, is the operations and maintenance budget, and also including central services, which is the central duplicating and central receiving areas. So once again, you'll see our standard format with the budget presentations. What I take away from these areas of the district vision, the mission, the goal, the slogan, is particularly with the support service areas and how these departments can help support the instructional areas of the school district. Sometimes it's harder to make those connections. And when we're looking at the district goals, I particularly like to focus on the second one there. And I've been doing a lot of work with the Operations and Maintenance Department, the Labor Management Team, the supervisors, to really work on building this culture of high expectations, respect, and accountability for performance. So this is one of the ones that I tend to key in on a little bit more than the others. Everybody counts, everybody learns. I think this absolutely applies to the staff within the Operations and Maintenance Department, central receiving and central duplicating. The Bill of Rights for Children, this comes from the New York State Education Department, and it's something that I want to become more and more a part of the work that we do in the school district. And as you can see, it really states and reaffirms that every child has a right to an environmentally safe and healthy learning environment which is clean and in good repair. And I think we all know this intuitively, but I think it's very good to continually see this and think about it as we go through our work. Just a brief overview of the cost associated with these areas. The current budget, you can see, is about $9.5 million, just under 6% of the total general fund operating budget. And this obviously would include the salaries, not the benefits, because the benefits are in a separate area. They're not broken out by the areas for these series of budget presentations. Any supplies, contractual services, heat, utility, all of those expenses are included in there. Just a general overview of where we stand currently. As we know, over the next couple of years with the redistricting plan, we're going to be having some buildings go offline, and obviously Oneida is currently unoccupied, but we'll be coming back onto that occupied status. And over the next couple of years, I'll be able to update the square footage because we will be adding space in some of these buildings. Looking at these next two slides where we list out the square footage and of our buildings, one of the things that we have done this year is we have engaged the services of Hilliard, one of our companies, vendors that we work with. They provide a free service in which they come in and they do an analysis of the operations department. So they came in over February recess. They went into every single room of all of our buildings, the ones that aren't under construction, and did an inventory and analysis. And they're going to be providing us with a report. And we're very excited about this report, which will be an objective, neutral analysis of what is needed to take care of our buildings. You know, one of the areas that has been a concern for me is really evaluating, is our staffing levels appropriate for our building space? As we've added programs and had changes, and you know, each building is very unique and different. You know, we have ones that have elevators, we have ones that don't. You know, you have multiple floors, and you know, you might have 8 staircases in a building, and another one you might only have like 2. So their service, their reporting seems to really key on some of those unique elements to really help us come up with some objective criteria to determine, you know, what our staffing levels should be. And in addition, they also will give us some guidance in terms of some better practices and some greater efficiencies that we can achieve. So I think it's going to be really helpful as we go forward this year and into the next couple of years to be, you know, taking from their recommendations to see how we can improve things even better. Quick summary on our staffing levels. The operations department, which is the cleaners and custodians in the district, We've got 82 total staff members. On the maintenance side, which is more of our tradespeople, we have some very skilled folks, electrical, plumbing, carpenters. We've got 18 in that area. Last year I had provided and wanted to update it for this year is the volume of work orders that we have and our progress towards getting those completed. So you can see to date where we stand, whether they're closed or work in progress. Then the other two areas, central receiving, you can see that we have 1.5 staff members, and central printing is 1.5. That 2 half-time people, it's actually one person that's split between the 2 different departments. Central printing. We have a very high demand production center that is run, and you can see that we have a very substantial volume that goes through central duplicating printing. In addition to these numbers, I'll just point out that we also have copiers throughout the district where there is also copies that are made. So the volume is really very large for our school district. Our program focuses for this year and going into next year. We've been focused on staff attendance. We have some folks that have excellent attendance, and then we have others not so good. So we've really been trying to create that expectation of our staff that attendance is very important, and we're watching on it. And it's one of the criteria that we use when folks are looking to move between buildings. And that has really had an impact. We know that people now recognize that if their attendance is poor, that it's not worthwhile to be posting for a transfer because they know that's going to count against them. And that has then resulted in people being much more mindful about their attendance and improving it so that those that wish to be moving to another building have been able to achieve that. Implementation of the Rapid Responder software program. We've talked about this last year as a budget proposal. So we've had the budget increase to pay for this, but now what we've been doing is working on implementing it. And this is the software system that is going to allow for the crisis management. It allows us to have a single repository of all sorts of different data and information that we currently have in separate places, but now will be located in one place. This is a software that is being used in multiple municipalities. We had meetings with the first responders in the area to develop building-specific plans, and it's really going to be a very useful tool for us in many respects. But it's a very involved process to populate it, and then we're going to have to deal with training and rolling out and starting to use it. So that's continuing through this year and into next year. I already spoke about the potential changes with respect to the operations analysis. We continue to work on finding ways to decrease that response time for work orders, as well as improving our process with the check-in and distribution of goods through central receiving, an area that we